Welcome back to Emily A to Z. My name is Emily and today's letter is S for Summerween because I'm doing a blog for Summerween and today is officially Friday, July 5th, which means today is the first day of Summerween, and I'm going to show you the titles that I've picked. I have 4 books to show you and I plan on trying to vlog a little bit every day as I try to complete the tasks. So for today, I'm just going to show you my titles. Sorry, I'm a little flustered. We just got back from hiking. It was my first hike after being home and after getting over COVID, so wasn't the best, but it was good to get out and be active again. First up, I've got The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, The Haunting of Rookward House, Rookward, that's going to be hard for me to say, House by Darcy Coates, A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. So let's see if I can actually read all of these in a week. I could only get one as an audiobook, and that was Dead Silence. So I will be listening to this at work. The other 3, I couldn't get an audiobook of currently without having like weeks of holds. So we're just gonna do what we can do and we'll get there. It is Saturday, July 6th. I am not doing well. I don't really want to get into like the specifics, but just know that I am on a medication that I have to take twice a day, and unfortunately I could not go get my prescription from the pharmacy with like holiday hours and stuff. I couldn't get to the pharmacy while they were open. So I went like 3 days without this medication, and I am not feeling well because of that. Is it my own fault? Yes, absolutely. I take ownership of that. It still sucks. It is not something that I want to be experiencing. And I just feel like shit. I do not feel well at all. But I did go and pick it up this morning. I went ahead and took my AM dose. I'm hoping here soon it will, do a little bit. I don't expect to miraculously feel better by the end of the day, but that's the boat I'm in. I did pick up a coffee from my favorite local spot, got Caden a drink too, and because I feel awful and can't really do anything, part of me wants to just like veg out and get on the computer and play some computer games, specifically Zoombinis, which is a game from my childhood. It came out in like the 90s, I think. But I played it as a kid, and so much nostalgia. It is available on Steam, and I have the version. I've had it now for a while, but it just like popped back up into my head about Zoombinis, and then I found someone do like a walkthrough of it on YouTube. And now I want to go play Zoombinis again. If you have no idea what that is, I highly suggest you go look it up. Maybe it will unlock some weird childhood memory for you. I've run into people who know absolutely nothing about Zoombinis, or you're like me and you grew up and you played it and you're like secretly still obsessed with it and thought it was all a fever dream because you couldn't remember what it was. Zoombeanie. But that requires thinking powers because the full name is The Logical Journey of the Zoombinis, and it's all about solving like logic puzzles. And I don't know if I have the brain capacity for that. So my other thing is I'm gonna read. And I do think I am gonna spend some time reading today and just see if that doesn't kind of settle things down for me. I'm having some balance issues, some dizziness. My tummy is upset, standard summer girl things. But this is my first read. I started it last night, did not get very far because I was tired. But this is what I am starting off with, The Haunting of Rookward House. This is very difficult for me to say. I am reading this for Has a Night Sky on the cover. So right now, what is this about? This says, she's always watching. When Guy finds the deed to a house in his mother's attic, it seems like an incredible stroke of luck. That has happened. Sure, it hasn't been inhabited in years, and vines strangle the age-stained walls, but Guy's convinced he can clean up the building and sell it. He'd be crazy to turn down free money, right? Rookward House may be hours away from its nearest neighbor, but he can't escape the feeling that he's being watched. Still, he decides to camp in the crumbling old mansion while he does repairs. Surely nothing too bad can happen in the space of a week. This has kind of happened where I'm at. But there's a reason no one lives in a Rookward house, and the dilapidated rooms aren't as empty as they seem. 40 years ago, a deranged woman tormented the family that made Rookward its home. Now her ghost clings to the building like rot. She's bitter, obsessive, and fiercely jealous, and once Guy has moved into her house, she has no intention of letting him go. Is that a spoiler? I don't know. But I will say, I'm not yet 30 pages in. I am on page 27. The first 2 paragraphs of this has happened. Guy has something going on in his past. Something has happened. We have had a hint that some accident has happened with someone named Savana. We have no idea who that is. I have no idea what has happened, what accident happened, but it has like ruined his life, and he's currently unemployed and has like moved back in with his mother. That's how like this book opens, is like, we know there's some sort of accident has happened. He can't get a job, like people won't hire him, so I'm assuming it has something like maybe he was on the job when some sort of accident happened, and I'm assuming it resulted in this person named Savannah's death. So then he has been forced to move back in with his older mother. He's helping her clean out her attic, stumbles across this deed, and realizes that his mother has been like gifted a home from her like father's will or whatever when he passed away. She like forgot about it. I don't know how you forget about that you were gifted a house, but she has completely she has like completely forgotten that she owns this house, and is like, sure, go check it out. He decides, I'm gonna go check it out, see if we can sell it, whatever, get some money, because it also comes with land. And it's like 3 hours away from where his mom lives. So where I have just ended, he has just sat down with his mom and said, hey, it's 3 hours away. Instead of trying to drive 3 hours back and forth both ways, I'm just going to go camp out there for like a week or 2, work on some repairs, and then I'll come back. She doesn't like it. She's like, make it less. And they've agreed like 2 days. He's going to go away only for like 2 days, and then he's going to come back. And then that's where I left off. The first chapter of the book, though, actually starts in 1965. Yeah, it actually opens in April of 1965 with a completely different family. And we're following this guy named Thomas and his wife. They're asleep in bed, but he wakes up because he like feels the presence of someone named Amy, and is like watching his kids through like the baby monitor, and is like freaking out, and he swears he hears a voice tell his kids like, hush baby, and so then he freaks out and goes like stumbling into their bedroom. That's all that has happened. That's not a spoiler. That's literally the first chapter, is like he wakes up, he's freaking out, and then we jump into like present day with Guy and his mom. So initial thoughts: spooky. I don't know what's going on, and I kind of like that, but I kind of don't like that. Part of me is like, I want to know what happened to Savannah. What is this accident? Don't leave me in the dark. Just tell me what happened. I've talked about this before. You know that I hate in a book when the main character is like, oh, I did something horrible, and if anyone else finds out, then they'll just hate me for the rest of my life, but they don't tell us what they did. And I'm always just like, just tell me what it was, because I swear it's probably not that bad, unless you actually actively, you know, someone. Probably not the worst. Maybe I'm psycho for saying that, but like that's how I feel. So I'm just like, I'm hoping that the twist for this is not that like he accidentally minorly injured someone or majorly injured someone and they got into a hospital and that was it. Like if he was responsible for someone's death, absolutely, then like, yeah, I'm like, you have an issue, but we don't know. I don't know. I'm only 30 pages in. I'll let you know. It is Monday, July 8th, and what do I have to report? So I finished The Haunting of Rookward House yesterday, and I'm giving this a solid 3. So I really like the premise of this book. I like the concept that there is this house that has been passed down through this family that no one has like claimed essentially, and has just been left to rot and left to its own devices. And it does the thing, and I've talked about it before, there is this trope that thriller novels tend to do, mystery thriller novels do, where the main character has some big, dirty secret in their past. I can't stand that. Only because 9 times out of 10, when the reveal inevitably comes, the incident in their past, this deep, dark secret, is really not that bad. Now, all of that said, when the reveal came for what guy's big, bad secret, if only you knew how awful I am, this is why everyone hates me, when that reveal came, I went, okay, yeah, checks out. Yeah, you would be a social pariah. Now, that is not why I didn't like Guy. I am giving this 3 stars because the main character, Guy, no last name, sucks. The whole thing with him is that he has a horrible temper. Like, he loses his temper really, really quickly. He's tried to go to counseling for it in the past to help, relieve his temper. But when he gets mad, he gets physically violent, and he will punch things, he will hit things, he kicks things, and he is physically violent. Like, big man gets mad, and so then he throws a tantrum, and I hate that. Like, I don't do toxic men. Absolutely not. No. And the whole thing is that inevitably, it's kind of a spoiler, I'm not going to say exactly what happens, but in the past, his anger got the better of them, and he accidentally, and that's the crux of it, is it wasn't an accident, he accidentally hurt someone he really, really cared about. He accidentally hurt his ex-fiance. So there's this big thing, it happens, and he hurt her really, really badly, and it ended up going to court. And it was like this whole big thing. So yeah, of course, now he is a social pariah in this like seemingly small town where everyone knows everyone. They all know his name, and everyone looks at him differently. And so even though he was not like convicted of a crime or anything, like he ended up being found innocent, that didn't matter. He was guilty in the eyes of everyone else. It didn't matter what law said. In the eyes of the people, he was guilty. So his whole thing is, we need to get out of this town and start over in this house. If that alone was the thing, if he'd done this horrible thing, and it was an accident, and I also truly felt that it was an accident, right? And at this point, I don't know if I feel it was an accident. It would have been one thing. But the whole book is like predicated on the fact that when he gets mad, he gets violent. And it says multiple times, like, he's never hurt another person. He'd never hurt a person when he's mad. He drew that line in the sand, and it didn't matter how angry he got, he would never cross that line, and he would never hurt another person. Bitch, you went to court because you hurt someone when you were angry, whether or not it was an accident. Like, I don't do toxic men. Point blank. Period. And I just could not get past that. I couldn't handle that, like, violence was his go-to. Something went wrong, he literally would throw a tantrum and like kick and hit and scream. And I don't believe for a second in real life that if a man is doing that or a woman is doing that you have never hurt someone. Because you don't escalate to that point where, as it says, like, his vision goes red and then his vision goes black, and he's hitting and kicking and punching, and then it all goes away. Like, I can believe you can lose your temper that quickly, as well as, like, you can be a short fuse and then you can also settle down. I do not believe for a second that you'd become a grown adult and not actually have become abusive or gotten into fights or scrapes or whatever and actually hurt someone. Not for a second, because life and experience has taught us otherwise. We know that that's not real. And it just was not believable that this man who has these such severe anger issues, where he has gone to counseling for it to get help, like, had never hurt someone up until this point. Like, also the way the reveal came, like how you learn about his past, felt so unnatural. Like, he basically tells a complete stranger his story, and it's like, why in the world would you tell a stranger this? Like, and not just that, like a teenager, like, it was convoluted. What I did like, so those are things I didn't like, and that's really why it was not going to be higher than a 3-star for me, because the character alone was shit. I did not like him. I couldn't stand, I don't like that character arc, and it did not make him sympathetic in the slightest, so it was really hard for me to root for him, and to not, like, part of me kind of be like, if he dies, I'm not going to be upset about it. What I did enjoy, though, and why it is a 3 and not lower, is there are parts of this story that are told in, like, flashbacks or, like, dream sequences, where we get spent back in time, and we meet the family that was living, the last family to ever have lived in Rookward House. And they did not make it out of Rookward. That is so hard to say. Rookward House alive. So their story, the flashbacks where we get their story and what happened to them and their deaths and everything like that, I was in that. It was awesome. I wanted more of that story. Like, that's what I wanted from this. I wanted more of, his name was Thomas, the wife was Louise, and their 3 kids. Like, that's what I wanted. Ultimately, the connection never really got explained. It's hinted that it was like a family, a distant relation, but it was never actually explained, so you don't truly know how these lives, like, overlap. You know, like, Guy's mom inherited the house from her dad. How did his dad get it? Like, where did this come from? Because the whole family that lived here, they're gone. Like, so it's like, how did this get passed? Whatever. There were, and it was also a 3 because there were a couple creepy moments that had me going, whoa! I read this physically, and even my husband commented, because I was reading it last night. I finished it last night. I guess he looked over at me reading, because I hear him go, oh no, and I was like, what? And he's like, your face. And I was like, what? And he's like, you're sitting there going, and I guess I realized that I was, like, I knew that I was, like, emoting and reacting, but I could kind of catch myself where I was like, he said I did a lot of, like, this, where I would, like, cover my face, like start to cover my eyes a little bit and kept reading, or that I would be like I would, like, shake my hand, which is, like, a nervous tick of mine. So, yeah. There were a few moments that I did find kind of creepy, kind of unsettling. There were a few times that I could kind of guess where things were going. There was one thing that I called that I was actually wrong about, and I liked that I was wrong. So, 3-star. I did start Dead Silence today by S.A. Barnes. I started this at work as an audiobook. Claire Kovalik is days away from being unemployed, made obsolete when her beacon repair crew picks up a strange distress signal. With nothing to lose and no desire to return to Earth, Claire and her team decide to investigate. What they find is shocking. The Aurora, a famous luxury space liner that vanished on its maiden tour of the solar system more than 20 years ago. A salvage claim like this could set Claire and her crew up for life, but a quick search of the ship reveals something isn't right. Whispers in the dark, flickers of movement, messages scrawled in blood. Claire must fight to hold onto her sanity and find out what really happened on the Aurora before she and her crew meet the same ghastly fate. I am really enjoying this so far. I've got about 3.5 hours in today at work. that puts me, let's see, I've gotten to chapter 10, which is 3.5 hours, close to a little over 90 pages of the physical book, 3.5 hours of the audiobook. I am loving this. I am really invested. I am really intrigued. This is one of the first like sci-fi horror books that I've ever read, because we are in space. We are like in the future. We are following this like space crew. The vessel they find is, think like a modern day, like really nice cruise ship, but like a spaceship. So like the writing is awesome. It's so easy to visualize in my head exactly what is happening because of the way it is just written so well. I can clearly picture what it is. So I think this book is going to get under my skin because I have no trouble at all with what the author is telling us, and some pretty gross kind of stuff. They have discovered the Aurora. They've gone on board. They are finding blood and stuff. And some of the descriptions, it is a little gory, but like it's more unsettling in a sense of like there is just this sense of dread because they don't know what happened to this ship. The crew, Claire and her team, they don't know what happened. And they're just finding evidence that something horrible did happen. Yeah, I am really enjoying this so far. I will have more updates as I progress. And today, though, physically, I'm going to start A Head Full of Ghosts Tonight by Paul Tremblay. A reminder what each thing was for. This book, The Haunting of Rookward House, was for a night sky on the cover. Dead Silence is just a general horror thriller book. A Head Full of Ghosts is by Paul Tremblay, is a book that has at least 5 words in the title. A Head Full of Ghosts. And let's say what this book is about. So we've got the lives of the Barretts, a normal suburban New England family, are torn apart when 14-year-old Marjorie begins to display signs of acute schizophrenia. To her parents' despair, the doctors are unable to stop Marjorie's bizarre outbursts and subsequent descent into madness. As their home devolves into a house of horrors, they reluctantly turn to a local Catholic priest for help. Father Wanderley suggests an exorcism. He believes the vulnerable teenager is the victim of demonic possession. He also contacts a production company that is eager to document the Barretts' plight for a reality television show. With John, Marjorie's father, out of work for more than a year and medical bills looming, the family reluctantly agrees to be filmed, never imagining that The Possession would become an instant hit. When events in the Barrett household explode in tragedy, the show and the incidents it captures become the stuff of urban legend. 15 years later, a best-selling writer interviews Marjorie's younger sister, Mary. As she recalls those long-ago events from her childhood, she was just 8 years old, painful memories and long-buried secrets that clash with the television broadcast and the internet blogs begin to surface. I had no idea what this was about until I just read that. So, yeah, I'm going to start this and try and read a lot of it tonight. It is like 200 something pages, including the acknowledgments. It's 286 pages, so close to 300, but I'm going to work on this today and spend a lot of my time reading. I should have spent more time reading yesterday on Sunday, but I was playing Zoom Beanies. No regrets. July 9th. I cannot keep the day straight for whatever reason. Like, I just can't. But today's Tuesday, July 9th. And what updates do I have? So I started this yesterday and I got a decent chunk of the way into it. I got 114 pages through and it's almost 300. So like I'm close to halfway through the book. And so far it's interesting. I would go into this book blind because this I'm just now getting to. Almost halfway into the book, I am just now getting to the introduction of a priest and that the dad wants the priest to come like talk to Mallory and try and help her. I feel like if I hadn't read the synopsis, I would probably be having like a better time because I read the synopsis, I read the back of the book and was like, cool, okay, I know what's happening. And then I started the book and that's not at all where this book is. When you open it, that is not what it is. So I just feel like it's a big giveaway. And if you want to go in and actually enjoy it and you're not like me and you're impatient and you're going, what? I thought this was... So for me, like, okay, the big thing is, right, it says straight up here that like the family, their older daughter is starting to have signs of schizophrenia. Like she's starting to have these episodes. And the book does not tell us that. We have not actually had a conversation saying that this is what she has. It is told as like flashbacks. So the book opens with Mary, who is the younger sister, is now an adult, and she is being interviewed by a character named Rachel who wants to like write a book or like wants to do something with this story, with the Barrett's story of what happened with Marjorie and like how Mary felt about it. So when they were kids, Marjorie was 14 and Mary was 9, like 8 or 9. So she's a little kid. And now she's an adult. 15 years have passed. So she's in like she's supposed to be like in her mid-20s and she's now reflecting back on the events that happened. So in like present day, Mary is talking to this interviewer, Rachel, and is saying, this is what it was like for me. And then we go back in time and we're being told this story of Marjorie and her symptoms from the perspective of adult Mary recounting what younger Mary thought of the situation. Does that make sense? Interspersed with that, we get, not very often yet, but I just read one last night, we'll get, like this is a perfect example, we'll get like a chapter that changes, like the text is different, like normal regular book. Then we'll get a chapter like this where it kind of looks like that like typewriter font, Courier font or whatever. And what this is supposed to be is like a blog. Like we are reading the transcript of a blog, and the blog is dissecting the show episode by episode that was made, called The Possession, that is supposed to be about Marjorie and her family, because that's the whole premise, right? Is because we read it last night, is we know, because we read the book, that poor Marjorie is actually going through a psychotic break and is starting to show signs of like untreated, but not necessarily untreated, because they have hinted that she's gone to doctors and is on medication from the perspective of a child, like that they know something is wrong and they're trying to help her, but like it's not working yet because they haven't hit on the right treatment plan. So the whole thing, right, is like Marjorie is struggling, and we just got to the point where the dad's like, hey, maybe we try religion. And I feel like I'm doing such a horrible job explaining this. And so then I have not yet gotten to the point in this book at almost halfway through where the introduction of a TV show has happened. That has not occurred yet. We are still just in, like, we have just gotten to the point in the story where Mary is like, and then my dad was like, hey, we should bring in a priest. So we are just now about to get into the introduction of, like, the religious side. I still don't know when or how the, like, television show gets prompted into it, but that's where this section is leading. Like, I just started part 2, and part 2 opens with Mary and the interviewer again, and the interviewer's like, I want to talk about the TV show. So then I think we are starting to go down that track. I know this was convoluted and messy, and I've confused myself, so I don't blame you if you're confused. All of this to say, I feel like this needs to be different, because this is from, like, halfway through the book and on. It is not, I don't feel that this is a good representation of what is going on in this book. This needs to be different. Something needs to change here. Because you can't go this far into the book knowing something that hasn't actually been said in the book yet. Does that make sense why I'm so frustrated? It's still good. I need to stop talking. I'm hungry. I have not eaten lunch yet. I just got home from work. I wanted to film this because I had thoughts, and I'm going to keep reading. I don't know if I'm going to finish it tonight. I am going to try. I don't know. I'll check back in. Because the other thing I want to talk about is dead silence. I am loving this. I'm laughing because I have been listening to this, and there was something kind of itching at the back of my brain that was like, this feels very familiar. And at first, I did not read the plot summary before I started this book, which is what I should have done with this. Dang it. But I went into this completely blind. All I knew was what it says on the cover. A ghost ship, a salvage crew, unspeakable horrors. I knew that it had something to do with being set in space. But I went into this blind as possible. So the clip yesterday where I read what this is about, I was already like 3.5 hours into the book, so I had already like built it. And they do this whole thing about this like big cruise liner, right? They find this like empty cruise liner, and something horrible and unspeakable happened to it. It went missing 20 years ago, and they found this ship, and they're like the law finders, like the finder's law or whatever. If we go on and like bring something back that proves we found this ship, then it's like contents belong to us, and we're going to be rich because we have found this 20-year-old missing ship and could potentially provide answers to what happened 2 decades ago. They're describing this ship, they're describing some things, and I was like, ooh, okay, I'm getting like Titanic vibes with this like luxury cruise liner and the way they describe this like massive like ship. And I know it feels like very Earth terms, but like I'm also like, it's a rocket ship, like it's a science ship, it's a spaceship, it's a science ship. Right? So it's this spaceship up in the sky, up in space. It's so good. I'm still really, really loving the writing. I'm loving the characters. They're all very unique. I get a feel for each and every one. I am fully immersed in this world, especially when I am listening to it. I love this. I am so thrilled that I picked this up, and more thrilled that I got the audiobook of it. I have even casually mentioned it to my husband and was like, hey, you might want to like try this one out. I know you're a science fiction-y space guy. You might like this. I know you're not big on horror, but like, you might like this. I'm trying to get him to read more books. I'm trying. So back on the like, oh, it feels like Titanic. It also kind of gives, if you've ever seen that horror movie, Ghost Ship, I watched it so long ago. I think that's what it's called, where it's kind of the same premise where like a crew finds this like abandoned ship and they come on board and they're like, I think they're kind of salvaging it. I was like, okay, cool. Like it's giving those vibes. And then I got super excited when I read this, and then it was like famous luxury space liner that vanished, you know, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, Titanic, cool. I thought that's what was itching my brain, right? I thought that's what was making me go, that's why this is familiar, because it has this like Titanic vibes. It also has like ghost ship vibes, like things that I've consumed. And then it hit me. I am now several more hours in because I listened to it today. I think I have like, it's like a 13-hour audiobook. I have like 7-ish hours left, so I'm almost halfway through. Again, it struck me at work why this feels so familiar and why I like it so much. I'm not going to say what it is just yet. I'm going to wait until I finish this book to tell you what the other book is. But basically, there is another book that I have read that I went, oh no. Dead Silence is basically insert book here, just the grown-up version of it. Shit. I made that connection. My brain gave it to me right as I was finishing my shift at work. My brain made that connection, and then I went, oh, God damn it. Because now I can't unhear it. I can't unmake that connection. So that's now rattling around in my head. I'm going to keep going because I do actually really enjoy it. And I'm going to try and distance that. I don't want to move forward making comparisons. I hate doing that, and I don't want to do it because it should stand on its own merits, but I can't help but sit here and go, yep, that happened, and so did that, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. So I'm trying to stop those thoughts and just stay fully immersed in this, and once I finish it, and once I have my like rating and everything up for it, I will reveal what that connection is, and hopefully make some guesses, try and figure out what book I'm talking about. But, yeah, which I'm going to laugh because if it follows that trajectory, I loved X book. So hopefully I will also love this book and continue to love this book. But, yeah, so I'm going to go. I got some things to do. I do really need to finish this because I have today, tomorrow, and Thursday, and I still have another book I need to get to, and this is the longest one yet. It's a chunky boy, so yeah, I really need to be scooting along so I can hopefully get meet all of the prompts for Summerween. This is my first year doing it, and I really want to do all of the prompts, so let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. So it is Thursday, July 10th. Today is the official last day of the Summerween readathon. We have not given up. I am still going strong. I'm going to read for the rest of the day, especially because we have no internet. My husband mowed the lawn and did like the weed whacker today and accidentally like hit our internet line in the process of it and damaged it. And so our internet is not working, meaning no Netflix, no TV, there's no Wi-Fi. We can't do anything. Not a problem for me. I planned on reading anyways, but I think the boys are going to struggle a little bit. So I'm not surprised at all. They're not here right now. They left to go mountain biking. So it's going to be a long couple days. Yeah, he already called to report it, and unfortunately they can't get a tech out here until Monday at the earliest, and that doesn't even mean it's going to be fixed Monday. That's just when someone can get out here. Yeah, it's not gonna be a fun weekend for the boys. Oh well. It looks like Caden and I will have to go do something, or we'll have to go outside. You know, he's gonna have to play. Darn. Anyways, so I finished this. I did not finish it on Wednesday like I had planned. I actually finished it. Yes, I did finish it on Wednesday. I meant like Tuesday. I think I had planned. I really wanted to finish it Tuesday. I did not. So I finished it yesterday, and overall, I'm going to give this a 4 because of the ending. If it had not been for the final few chapters of this book, it would not be a 4. It's separated into parts. There are 3 parts. Part 3 is the last couple chapters. That alone is what solidified this as a 4. I don't want to say anything else from what I've already said, other than my thoughts and feelings are still valid. I wish I had gone in blind. I wish that this description on the back was written differently with different information, or a different tagline was given to us. I like that it's essentially adult Mary is telling her story to this reporter, and we're getting her to tell us this, and then we get this interspersed with other things. I did like that. It was enjoyable. Those final like 3 chapters, just so good. If you have read We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, you can tell that he took a lot of inspiration from that writing this. And this book has like author like notes. He like sat down and wrote some like notes for some of the chapters, like almost all of the chapters in this book. And he does straight up say like he named our main character after one of the main characters in We Have Always Lived in the Castle. There's a direct parallel there. There's a lot of inspiration that is there. There are a lot of good little Easter eggs in here of him making nods to other horror writers or references to other horror films or movies. It's the same thing, or books, but, and I enjoyed that. I can't say that I recommend this widely. It is kind of an oddball, and there are triggers for, you know, mental illness and religiosity, religious trauma, things like that. There's also some, I would argue, some like domestic abuse, or maybe even some child abuse, depending on your view of like bringing religious practices into your home in lieu of medical advice. I don't like that. Because you have to remember, the whole point is we think that the daughter is dealing with schizophrenia, and then dad is becoming ultra religious and decides an exorcism is in order. And one thing leads to another, ultimately, with this ending. And it is such a good, I don't want to say plot twist, but it is such a good reveal when it comes, that even if you kind of had an inkling of what this ending was going to be, it still is satisfying. And so that's why 4 stars. Ending alone, 4 stars. Sorry, other trigger warnings, because I do want to mention them if you do still want to, if you're interested in this. Mental illness, I can't say it's good mental illness rep. There is trauma that has to do with mental illness, trauma with religion. There is, I would argue, again, domestic issues and children, child abuse, topics of exploitation of children and exploitation of mental illness, exploitation of religion, vomiting. That is a big thing. There is blood, gore, stuff like that. So yeah. I have about 45 minutes left of the audiobook of this. I am still loving it. I will check in with you when I finish that. I'm going to finish it today. With the boys not being here right now, I think I can knock it out. I listened to it at like 1.65 speed. So I'm going to use the time when they're not home to listen to it, especially since right now I've lost my headphones. And that's really disappointing and upsetting. So I have to listen to it just as is. So I'm going to listen to it some more, try and finish it while I'm like eating dinner, all that fun stuff. And then I'm going to go back to reading The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I did start it last night. I only got like 20 pages in. Do I think I'm going to be able to finish it tonight? No, absolutely not. Do I think I could get a good chunk of it done considering I have nothing else to do? Absolutely, yeah. So that's the plan for the last day of Summerween, is finish the audiobook of this, read as much as possible, and then I will check in maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, and let you know how this went, and then wrap up of Summerween, my first Summerween. I'm excited. I'll see you soon. Coming at you live from my bedroom Friday morning in my pajamas, because Summerween is officially over. Let's talk about it. Drink break. Okay, let's talk about last night. First off, I finished Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. Is it a 5-star? I think it's a 5-star. I loved this book. I loved it. I did not think that I don't read a lot of science fiction. I have read fantasy, but I have not read a lot of science fiction, and I've not read a lot of things that are like space oriented. That has always felt very confusing to me. Like space travel kind of stuff always has just felt a little daunting for me. So it's never been something I've really like gone into. Eisenhower! Who's a good boy? Hi, buddy. Are you handsome? You gonna lay down? Oh, here comes Kennedy. It's 5 stars. I'm giving it 5 stars. I have not been able to stop thinking about it. And when I do think about it, it's positive. I'm like, I want more. Don't worry. I think it ended perfectly. It ended succinctly. I really, really liked it. I loved it all. I guess that's just what I'm going to say. I loved it all. I can't really find fault with it, which is why I'm like, it has to be a 5 stars, because I can't, there's no, like, the only thing I didn't like was at a certain point, a couple of times, the narrator, our main character, Claire, it was like, she said the same thing. I'm like, I get it. I understand you're traumatized, you're broken, you're sad, whatever. You can't let anybody in. I get it. Quit talking about it and focus. But that's not enough to deter me to like knock it down a 1/2 star or whatever. Like that was part of that inner monologue that she would have of like, I'm broken and things are wrong and I'm insane and I'm crazy and I'm selfish and all that. Like that added to her overall development. So it's fine, even if it felt it got a little repetitive. I do really like it. This is a 5 star for me. Does that mean I can recommend it? Probably not, because I will say, trigger warnings, there is a lot of body horror in this, because there's a lot of physical violence that gets done. There's a lot of blood, there's a lot of death, there are a lot of dead bodies, and bodies that have been horribly brutalized. So for some people who might be very sensitive to that, that could be very off-putting. I know that there were a few descriptions where I was like, ooh. And I talked about this in a different clip a couple days ago where it's like, I could picture it so clearly in my head because the writing is so good. The way they write, the way, I want to make sure pronouns. Yes. The way she writes is so descriptive without being overly flower or, you know, wordy. It's to the point, but it is the right point. And I had no problem picturing this, even with it being like futuristic and spacey. Like I was there, I got it, I understood what was happening. And yeah, I don't think, I have to stop talking about this because it was just, I don't know. I really, really enjoyed this. And I would, if you think you can handle, if like maybe science fiction is your thing or maybe horror is your thing and you want to try combining them both, or if you're like me where science fiction is not your thing but horror is your thing, try this because to me, it changed that genre for me. Like it has made me more interested in thinking maybe I could try a few more spacey things, even if the horror is toned down, maybe I could try it because of this. But yes, aware of the things I mentioned with blood and gore and violence. There is also, there is suicide on page. If that is disruptive or upsetting for anyone, there's large discussions and conversations about like childhood trauma and like child abandonment and things like that. So it is heavy. I'm not going to say it's not. It does have some really heavy and intense topics, but if you think you can handle it, it is worth it. This was a 5-star for me. I really like the back with all this because this is part of the book. This is in there. I see you. Leave me alone. Yeah. Oh, who, Kendare Blake, I've read her. T. Kingfisher. Melissa Landers sounds very familiar, but I don't think I read it. So this, yes. Moving on. And our last book, The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I did not finish it. I got so far. I have about 100 pages left. It is not even. It is like 350 pages. I'm like 75 pages, if that, away from the ending. I got so close. I read for like 4 hours yesterday after I came home. No internet. The boys were doing their thing. I was left to just read, which was fantastic. And I got really engrossed in this. I don't know if this is going to be a 5-star. Right now, 4.5 star prediction is where I'm at, depending on how this last section goes. And I'm pretty much at like the last section. Each parts of this book, they'll have like a before, and then there's a now section. And for the most part, these bigger ones are all of the before, but this last section is now the now. You're probably going, what are you talking about? So the book is told in back and forth. I don't want to say dual timelines because it's not, but it's told as a what happened in the past, what's happening now. So the story opens with what's happening right now with our main character, and then it'll flash to like basically a couple days ago, and we'll get a large chunk, and then it'll give us a short little snippet of what's happening right now in the present, and then we go back to a couple days ago. So we've been leading up to this point, and where I've got right now, both of those storylines have now reconvened. So we've gotten to the point where the book opened, and now it's like, okay, you know, now we're streamlining to the end. We're racing to the end, and it has gotten kooky. I feel like I say this a lot with Riley Sager, the last couple of Riley Sagers I read. It has gotten so unhinged so fast, or I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I don't know if it's just because I tend to consume Riley Sager's books like very quickly. They are compulsively readable. They are so easy to read quickly, in my opinion. I have noticed this with several of his books. This is my 4th Riley Sager now. It is so easy to just burn through his books. I don't know if that's just me or if that's just how he writes, but I can just get through them. Now, here's the thing. I haven't said what this book is about, and that's because I didn't read. This time, because you traumatized me, I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So I have started this book. I have gotten like 90% of the way through this book and have not read this flap. So we're going to do it now. The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. Be careful what you watch for. Casey Fletcher, a recently widowed actress trying to escape a streak of bad press, has retreated to the peace and quiet of her family's lake house in Vermont. Armed with a pair of binoculars and several bottles of bourbon, she passes the time watching Tom and Catherine Royce, the glamorous couple living in the house across the lake. They make for good viewing. A tech innovator, Tom is powerful, and a former model, Catherine is gorgeous. One day on the lake, Casey saves Catherine from drowning, and the two strike up a budding friendship. But the more they get to know each other, and the longer Casey watches, the more it becomes clear that Catherine and Tom's marriage isn't as perfect as it appears. When Catherine suddenly vanishes, Casey immediately suspects Tom of foul play. What she doesn't realize is there's more to the story than meets the eye, and that shocking secrets can lurk beneath the most placid of surfaces. Goodness, that last little bit. Okay, valid. That I have no critiques against. Yep, cool. Perfect, succinct. Tells me what's going on without revealing major issues. Love it. Let's do it. So far, like I said, enjoying it. Fast read. I'm in it to win it. I read all the way up until 11:50 p.m. last night. And then I had to concede defeat. I was not going to finish this in 10 minutes. And that's fine. So, I'm going to finish it today, though, because I have to. And then you'll just have to wait and see what I thought about it in a different video. So let's recap of this week. For my first Summerween, I only grabbed 4 books for this week-long readathon hosted by Gabby of Gabby Reads and her beautiful sister as well. They have put in so much work and effort into this. I have heard of it before. I have seen content for it before. I have just never participated in it before, and I thought, let's do it this year. Why not? Let's try it. And I'm really glad I did. I had a great time. I think it really got me off of my phone, and I spent a lot more time reading in this past week than I have in a while. And that was actually a lot of fun. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed that. And it was nice too, because I told my husband I was doing a readathon, and he's like, I don't know what that is, but like, okay. I was like, you just read as much as possible. And he was like, all right, cool. And then I was like, I'm gonna go upstairs and read so I'm not distracted by like the TV. And he was like, yeah, sounds good. Like, come up later. And it was great. Like, he's just like, go do you, like, have fun. So to review what I accomplished and what these books were supposed to be about, or which prompts they were, I started off with The Haunting of Rookward. I still can't say this damn title. Rookward House by Darcy Coates. I read this to fulfill the prompt that has a night sky on the cover. What did I say this was? A 3? I don't know. It's been a week. Done. Completed. Then we had A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. This was to fulfill a prompt that was 5 words in the title. A Head Full of Ghosts. This was, what did I say? 4, I think is what I ended up giving this. 4, only because the ending solidified it as like, yep, 4 stars. Cool. Finished this. Physical, both of those. Then we had Dead Silence, which of course I've just talked about. 5-star read. I listened to this as the audiobook while I was working. I did not touch it physically at all. And I do also say, if you're gonna read this, do the audiobook. The narrator was fantastic. She was amazing. Atmospheric. She did a great job. She put emotion, she got oomph into it. I think that was also why I was so drawn in and captivated by it, because the narrator did such a fantastic job. Highly recommend. I will be looking like her up and seeing what else she has done, because it was fantastic. And then, oh, and this was just for a general read a horror or thriller book. And then finally, we have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This could fit a number of the prompts. It has a night sky. It has 5 words in the title. This one I picked up because it's, one of the prompts was like, read a book set in summer or has like summer vibes. And I actually went to the Summerween Instagram for that because I was struggling to find like a horror or thriller book that fit the prompt. And this was one that Gabby herself had put up on like Instagram, that like the Summerween Instagram was like, hey, this will fit all of the prompts. If you're having trouble or if you want one book that fits everything. So I grabbed it. I will say this is not set in summer. This is set in October. So not set in summer, but I get where it's coming from with like, it gives summer vibes, because when you think you're at a lake house, you don't think about winter time being at a lake house, you think summertime. So I totally get it. It does feel like a summery read. I also have read this in summer, so like I totally get that this feels very summer thriller. But if you went into this like me thinking this is set in the summertime, it's not. It's set in like the middle of October. And I have not finished this book. I am very close to finishing this book. My prediction is like 4, maybe 4.5 stars depending. So, and that is that for my first Summerween. Crazy. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming on this journey if you're still here with me. I really, really appreciate it. And I can't wait to do something like this again. Happy watching, happy reading, happy listening, happy stitching, happy doing whatever it is that makes you happy doing. Be easy with your hearts. Surprise! You didn't think I was actually going to end this video without telling you a couple other things, did you? Also, look who's here. He's never here. He's always when I'm filming downstairs. But look at this man. Oh, yes, look at Washington. Okay, thank you, Bobby. He just wants to chill. Candy, don't ruin it. Be nice. Be nice to Cat Brother. He's old. Okay. So, even though I did not finish Riley Sager's The House Across the Lake during Summerween, I did finish it. Sorry, it's like literally golden hour, but only on that half of my room. So, I could just... Would you look it? Now I'm at least centered. Okay, so I did finish it yesterday night. I had about an hour left to read. I didn't like read it as fast, I think, as I did the night before, because I was like, I already missed my window to finish it. Bye, Washington. Love you. I need to see that. Anyways. The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I don't know how to feel about this. It did stereotypical Riley Sager, what I have come to associate as the Riley Sager hallmarks, the Riley Sager trope, if you will, where in his female-driven books, which is all but one at this point, inevitably, there's some sort of crisis, because of course, otherwise we have no story, but there's always the hot guy who is hot, but ultimately becomes a suspect, and typically ends up not being our suspect, and or multiple hot guys that are at one point all considered a suspect, and some, if not all of them, end up not being the culprit. Always, you always have to have a hot guy that we flirt with to some degree, right? And then we become very suspicious of. Always. There's always the, I have a weird secret, I have a dark past, I'm scared and alone, I lost someone. There's always that. And then inevitably something fucking unhinged happens in Riley Sager in the last, third. Check and check with Mr. I don't know why I became Jim Carrey there, but I did. That happened with this book, because of course it did. We have our lead lady, Casey, and she is deeply troubled. Her husband died a year before, and she has drank herself into, trying to drink herself into oblivion ever since then. She cannot deal with this. And then we have our cute neighbor, Mr. Boone. That is his first name, not his last name. He is handsome and flirty, and of course he is in AA and has been sober for a year, and he just wants her to also consider the life of sobriety. And he's hot and a former cop, and his wife died mysteriously, and that's what makes him suspicious, of course. Whatever, tall, dark, and handsome. He also did the trope of he's so big, she's so small, and that's dumb, but oh well. And then last but not least, we have, I'm not gonna spoil it, because I was not spoiled. This book was not spoiled for me, so I am not going to spoil it for you. But you have my word, you have my guarantee that there is probably the most unhinged thing that I have read thus far of Riley Sager. I have read 4 of his books. Now, The Last Time I Lied, the last one left, only one left, the title I can never get right, and the apartment one, Lock Every Door, that I just read recently, and now this one, The House Across the Lake. So I have read 4 of his books. Of those 4, the unhinged moment in this book has been the most what the fuck of them. It is weird, it is surreal, it is not explained, and that is part of the explanation, is that we are told, I don't know how this is working, I don't know how this happened, but this thing happened, and you're just going, huh? There was like a story within a story. There's a plot twist and a plot twist. Which Riley Sager also does. I've noticed this in like 2 of his novels, at least. So like half of them, 75% of the ones I read. I don't remember The Last Time I Lied as much as I do the other 3, because I've read those 3 more recently. The Last Time I Lied, I read probably about 2 years ago, so I don't remember it as clearly as I do the most recent 3 that I've read. But I do know that there was like the big reveal / plot twist, and then there was like a secondary plot twist, and he has done that before in his other books. There's like the big where you're like, moment, and then there's always this like smaller secondary one where you're like, hey, well, wait a minute, and then something happens. Like in this book, in my opinion, the main story wrapped up like 50 pages before the rest of the story did. So it was like, I'm looking at this going, okay, I still have several pages left. Like I still have a small chunk, and it's like, where are we going? What's the next reveal? And when it came, I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, saw that, thanks. I realize I've just been staring at the other end of my phone instead of my camera, so I bet it looks like I'm like staring off it slightly to the side or it looks like I'm looking at myself instead of the camera, because I was looking at the wrong end where there is no camera. Anyways, so I feel like 3 is solid, like mid for me, like mid-tier. Like it's not bad, it's not the best. I could safely recommend this to people as like, do you want a thriller with an utterly, I say it all the time, it's my word, I guess, but like an utterly unhinged plot device? Check out a Riley Sager. Like 3 feels good for him, besides the one that I really, really enjoyed. Give me that your butt. Okay. 3 stars? I don't know. I finished it. I didn't leave feeling disappointed, but I can't say that I'm utterly like, I will forget it. Like, I will forget this. The plot device I probably remember for us a little bit, and I'll be a little suspicious of, but like, it's forgettable. Check it out if you are interested in a Riley Sager. If you have not read this one by Riley Sager, go for it. Why not? Might as well. He's one of these where I feel like I said it in the previous clip, he is compulsively readable. He is extremely easy to read in that sense. Palatable in that you can swallow a whole book and not realize that it's gone, and then it's done and over. Am I a pirate now? There's me analogy. What the fuck? I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm hot, whatever. It's been a long day. This is day 3 without internet, and whilst I am fine, the boys are not, and it is starting to grate on me. Anyways, by the time this actually gets put up, since I don't have internet, it'll be several days past Summerween, so that's fun. But that's why. Anyways, and then lastly, I've already returned the book, so I'm just gonna have to, insert, bam, 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 move around, insert pictures. I said, if you remember, rewind, whatever, please forgive me. It has been days for me. It has been a literal week and more for me at this point, versus for you, it's been minutes since I've said something. So please forgive me if I've repeated myself. When I read Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, my 5-star, so good. Please read it. I did enjoy it. If you remember though, before I finished it, I said, hey, this book has reminded me of another book that I also really enjoyed. But I also said I'm not going to tell you what that book is until the end. And then you thought I finished the vlog and was not going to tell you. Haha, no. Actually, I did totally forget to say it. And then I remembered this morning and went, I should film an update clip since I finished the book. And I want to actually tell them what my comparison is so they know. So without further ado, Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, in my head, is the grown-up version of Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. If you have read either of these books, you'll know. And I cannot explain to you why Dead Silence is the grown-up version of Illuminae without spoilers. And part of me loves that. Part of me is enjoying this kind of petty gatekeeping, but I'm not gatekeeping. I just don't want anything to be a spoiler because I thoroughly enjoyed both of these books. I loved the mixed media format of Illuminae. It is a YA space odyssey, and it follows, I will say though, they follow similar trajectories, where in Illuminae we have this strong female lead who has a tortured past. It's not a spoiler because it's revealed both early on. Moms die in both of these books in a very sad, traumatic, medical illness, plague illness kind of thing. They both lost their moms. They're both sad and angry about it, right? They both have issues with the loss of their mothers due to this plague. They're both stuck in space. They're both dealing with this corporation that is either running things or trying to control things, or is controlling information or access to information. And now we have to go up against this unknown entity, this unknown something. And the similarities are very strong. Now, there obviously are differences. This is a completely different story. Illuminae is made for teens. It is YA, follows the young teenagers. Dead Silence is for adults. It is very much a horror novel, sci-fi horror novel, following a small group of explorers. It is not mixed media. It is a novel kind of thing. So if you think that Dead Silence might be too much for you, maybe check out the Illuminae Files series. I think there's 4 books now. Check them out. Maybe that would be for you. If you read that one and you're like, this is the grown-up version of that book. If you haven't read either, read them, enjoy them. And then come back to me and tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, because I bet you can't. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it, and that's not a bad thing unless you hated one of those books. I'm gonna reread the YA because I never actually finished the series. I just read the first one, so I can't say anything about the rest of the series, but the first book, baby, grown-up version. Try. And with that, I am officially done. I have completed Summerween to the best of my abilities. Thank you so much for being here. And on the off chance that Gabby sees this and watches this and makes it this far into this God knows how long video, I just want to say a personal thank you to her and to her sister and for all of the work that they have both put in to this readathon to make it what it is. I know that this is the 5th anniversary, and that is something to be very proud of. I am beyond thrilled to participate in any way, shape, or form, and feel also just a little privileged, even with my small number of subscribers that I have, to be able to participate and spread any amount of recognition or acknowledgement about this fun summertime event for those of us who want to bring a little bit of the spooky into our everyday or into our summer. So thank you to you for creating this and bringing so much of us together. I appreciate it. I'll see you all very, very soon.